What's up, guys? This is Maxwell Comics Inc. I'm your host, Sir Maxwell, and this is going to be another Rwby thing. I'm catching up on my Rwby. You can say that. This is chapter 8, Alone Together. Let's keep this brief, but let's also rip into Rooster Teeth. That rhymed, kind of. Anyway, so we get Weiss, Blake, and Yang. They're sitting on the balcony. They're like, I can't believe we're in Mistral. I can't believe we're back together. Weiss like, I can't believe I've seen you guys again. And, Rwby mentions the elephant in the room. She's like, hey, Blake isn't here. Why isn't Blake here? We need Blake. Like, she didn't say it like that, but she's like, I wish Blake was here. And Yang was salty. Yang was like, well, I mean, she could have been here if she stuck around, but she left. So yeah, that's what she did. She abandoned us. She left. And they're like, what is that supposed to mean? And it's like she left. And I'll get to that whole Blake leaving thing later. Anyway, so that ends that conversation. That ends that scene. So after that, we move into another scene, and we move into. I forgot to mention last episode that at the end of the episode, we get Cinder Emerald and Mercury breaking into Raven's bandit camp, but that's not really relevant until episode 9, so we're not going to talk about it. So anyway, we get this great conversation with Weiss and Yang, because Weiss goes to check on Yang, and you'd think it'd be Rwby, because Rwby and Yang are sisters, but it's like they're trying to get some more Yang and Weiss development, because they're the two teammates that haven't interacted much. So yeah. So when she goes into Yang's room, Yang's like, look, I don't want to be bothered right now, and Weiss just sits down and she listens to what Yang has to say. Yang is like, look, I have an abandonment issue. My mother left me. Ruby's mom left us. Our dad was too busy with school, and I had to raise Rwby alone. Basically, like, I had to do everything by myself. I'm sick of being left. I'm sorry, so I don't like it when people leave me. And you wouldn't know what that's like, because you have a nice family, and you're rich, and you live in this big fancy mansion. You're like a princess. You don't know what it's like to be left. I'm sorry, you just don't. And Yang, and then I keep saying Yang. We're talking about Yang. Weiss is like, I guess you're right. She goes into a little bit more of her backstory, and she's like, when I was 10 years old on my 10th birthday, my dad finally admitted to my mom that he only married my mom for the family name. That's the only reason why he married her. And, after that, they just started fighting all the time, and everything just broke down. And, first there was, separate lunches and dinners, a bottle of wine here, it was a glass of wine here, a glass of wine there. And then it was no dinners and no recitals. Everyone was isolated, and it was a bottle of wine here and a bottle of wine there. I mean, I guess I guess you can figure it out what happened to my mom, basically. And, when Yang was like, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have assumed. And Weiss was like, no, you're right. I don't know what it's like to be lonely and alone like you do. Like, I don't know what it's like to be lonely. I don't know loneliness like you do. I have my own version of loneliness, and I'm sure Blake has her own version of loneliness. And Yang was like, yeah, that's right, but I mean, she didn't have to leave us. I mean, like, she doesn't have, Blake doesn't have to be alone. I don't know why she left us. And Weiss is like, well, why do you think she left? The whole time that we were at Beacon, Blake tried to keep herself isolated from us. She tried to, she tried to cut herself off. She tried to protect us from her past. And as soon as her walls came down, as soon as she opened up to us, the worst thing that could have happened. Her worst fears happened. Beacon fell, the White Fang attacked. So, I mean, of course she got scared and she ran away. Hi, Morrison. So that's probably why she ran away. And she's like, well, no one blamed her for that. She's like, well, yeah, but that's Blake. So whenever she's ready to come back, whenever she's ready to come home, we'll be there for her. And I know we're not as close, but I'll be there for you too. And they hug, and it's a really cute moment, and Rwby comes in, it's really cute. So basically, some people thought this as a shit for Bumblebee. People were like, oh, this is Yang admitting that she has feelings for Blake. And I'm like, no, it's not. Look, I'm all for Bumblebee shipping. I'm all for LGBT representation. I'm all for that. It's cool. Rock on for the cause. But you can't be pulling something out of nothing. And you can't be hating on other characters. I'll get into the whole hating on other characters later, because that wasn't part of this discussion. I just don't think that this was Yang coming out and saying, hey, I have feelings for Blake. I don't think that's what that was. But don't worry, we're gonna get to some gay stuff in this episode. There's a lot of gay stuff that happens.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gayness that happens in this episode. Not too much gay, but there's a little gay. So anyway, now that this arc is over, we can go back to Menagerie. We can go back to Blake's story. Let's talk about Blake. So basically, Blake gets a letter from Ilya. She's sitting on her balcony, and of course, we know in episode 5 that the White Fang is going to try to assassinate Blake and her family. So she gets a little message from Ilya. She gets a little love note from Ilya. Ilya's like, hey, meet me in this dark alley in town alone. Don't bring anyone. And of course I'm thinking, okay, Blake, if you literally go to meet her alone and you don't tell Sun and you don't bring Sun with you, I'm gonna be so upset with you. Of course, she goes to the alley. She meets. I'm getting really black. Okay, let's not. We're lighting it up. We're lighting up. She's like, yeah. She goes and she meets Ilya, and I don't know why I'm getting really black. I'm just trying to fix this lighting really quickly. There we go. She's like, yeah, I'm gonna meet you in this dark alley, like an idiot. And of course, Ilya's like, I'm sorry. And Blake's like, you know what? No, you don't have to be sorry. You can come back to the side of good, and you can, you help us stop Corsic and Finnick. And she's like, no, Blake, I'm sorry. Literally, Brother Yuma flies down with his little bat wings and knocks Blake down. And, this spider faunus girl, like, shoots webs at her all Spider-Man style and ties her up. And she's like, Ilya, what are you doing? This is an ambush? She's like, yeah, it's an ambush. And she's like, Ilya's like, I'm sorry, Blake. And she's like, don't tell me you're sorry, because you're literally, you're trying to kill me right now. What are you talking about? Don't tell me you're sorry. She was like, yeah, I'm sorry it has to be this way, but you and your family are holding the faunus back. And she's like, why? Why are we holding the faunus back? Because we want to help people? Because we don't want to use violence and attack people? And she's like, yeah, pretty much. And she's like, in what world? And Blake's like, in what world is hurting people the right thing to do? And she's like, I'm the same one as you. Like, okay, they're humans that don't hate the faunus, but then they're the humans that, they're the humans that hate the faunus. Then they're the humans that, sit back and do nothing, let the hate happen. But you know what snuffs out hate? Fear. And let's talk about this line, because, boy, when I tell you that the trolls came out of the woodwork to stop all types of mess, everybody knows that the faunus issue mirrors racism in the real world. Let's just be real. That's what it mirrors. So a lot of people take this as the opportunity to project their feelings about racism and discrimination in the real world onto Rwby. And people basically are like, oh, since the faunus, they use violence to get what they want. That must mean that they're not really an oppressed species, and racism is invalid. And for those people, I say you're an idiot. I'm sorry, you're an idiot, because that's stupid. Just because a group of individuals is like, hey, I'm tired of being pushed around, maybe it's time I use a little violence to get what I want, to be treated fairly. That doesn't mean that the entire group of, oppressed people are just lying and making it up. And I mean, if you understand it, from a certain point, once someone is poked long enough, they will say, hey, I'm tired of being poked, I'm going to poke you back. And I'm going to poke you back hard. That's basically what the White Fang is doing. And I'm not saying it's right to go out and hurt people. Of course, I'm not condoning violence. Ilya is wrong. The White Fang is wrong for going out and hurting innocent people. But I'm just saying, don't act like you don't know where it comes from. That's what I'm saying. I'm getting really black right now, but I think me getting darker right now is like a symbol for this conversation. So yeah, I'm gonna roll with it. Anyway, so I don't condone violence. Because literally, I was watching Jacob the One Man Band. Jacob the One Man Band, I love you, Jacob the One Man Band. You're great doing Rwby stuff. But you said something really stupid. He was talking about Ilya, how Ilya is like, she doesn't have any morality.
Whoa.
And if Ilya saw a human baby on the side of the street, she would let it die, or she would go out of her way to try to hurt the baby. And I'm like,
you're throwing shade.
I'm like, shit, I'm gonna get so much YouTube beef for this. I don't even care. I'm like, but it's like, okay, Jay, I tried to explain to him. I'm just like, Ilya didn't say that. Now, Ilya did not say if she saw a baby on the side of the road, she would let it die. She's talking about like, people, grown people in the road. She wasn't talking about killing kids. Like, let's just be real. Like, I feel like he just said that to just make his point of the faunus being invalid a little bit more. I feel like he did that to strengthen this argument. He pulled a straw man. You know what a straw man is? Where you make up like a mythological point to knock down that's easy to like deconstruct. So you seem more right when that's really not what anyone's talking about. But whatever. I'll get on. There will be a separate video for all of my YouTube beefs.
Ooh.
Separate video. The shade for the shade for the holidays. Ho ho ho. Merry Christmas. Anyway, so what we're talking about? Yeah, we're talking about Blake, and Blake was like, Ilya, this isn't you. You don't have to hurt people. This isn't you. And she was like, this is me, but you were too busy falling for Adam back in the day. You were too busy falling in love with Adam to notice. And she was like, I was always jealous. She said this verbatim. She said, I was always jealous of the way you looked at him. I wanted you to look at me that way. And then, of course, she was like a million fondness, so her spots changed colors. So this was Ilya. This is basically the confirmation. Yes, Ilya is attracted to women, or at least attracted to Blake, and people were right about that. So I apologize for all the people who I called, stupid for thinking that Ilya and Blake were a couple. Not Ilya and Blake were a couple, but it was just more of an unrequited love thing. It was more of a, hey, Ilya loves Blake, but Blake doesn't love Ilya in that way. So anyway, Ilya's like, well, yeah, well now you're gonna be taking a Mistral into Adam, and we're going to kill your family. And Ilya and Brother Yuma leave. So Blake says the smartest thing ever. You know what Blake says? She says now, and then Sun pops out, and she told Sun what was going on, because she's not an idiot. I'm so happy that she's not an idiot. And, Sun basically helped her to escape, and now they're rushing to go save Blake's family. And then at the end of the episode, we pop up back at the Belladonna house. Gira and Callie under attack. Callie is using her little gun. She's protecting herself, and Gira, he's fighting off the White Fang, and he's a big guy, so he's knocking people around left and right, and of course the Infinite comes to finish the job. I'm telling you, he rips off his coat, he does a Wolfman, his claws come out, his fangs come out, he's like, rah, and that's when the episode comes off. Of course, that's the biggest cliffhanger you could leave us at. But yeah, that was just a great episode. I can't wait to talk about episode 9, which I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna catch my breath first after I do this. But anyway, this is the Maxwell Comics Inc. I thought this was a great episode. This was like a 5 out of 5 for me. This is a great episode. Oof. I hate oof. We're gonna talk about why I hate oof too. I'm just gonna have a podcast where I just rip into all the things I don't like. But anyway, this is Maxwell Comics Inc. I'm your host, Sir Maxwell. May the power protect you. Goodbye.